This morning we're going to have, I hope you will enjoy it. You know, many times, you've heard a lot talk about what's your story, and you hear stories, and I don't know where each one of you are individually, but I love the fact of hearing one story because it is their story. It's not something that could be counteracted by media or anybody else because it's their story. And the journey of redemption that these two gentlemen have gone through in their story, and their story is still ongoing. It's not over. It's still ongoing. But we were, the leadership team, we were just thinking it was something to share because the reality of what some people go through for what they believe in, what happens when they take a fall, when things don't go the way they want, and how you go about that. So I'd like to introduce two people. First, this is Uli. Uli is Reyes, and go ahead and introduce yourself, Uli. Oh, by the way, I understand they brought their fan club with them. There's about 5 or 6 gentlemen here that know them very well. So if you hear a little see, I knew we had some fan club here, so that's good. Go ahead, Uli.
My name is Uli Reyes. Uli is short for Ulises. And I've been in Tennessee now, in Franklin, for about, almost 20 years now. It's crazy. But I own a hair salon here around the,
3rd Avenue.
3rd Avenue North. I'm a hairstylist, salon owner, and a bunch of other stuff.
Go ahead, Al.
Good morning, everyone. It's an honor, a pleasure to be here this morning with you. My name is Alvaro, but my short name is Al. I'm from Nicaragua, and, I'm here working with Mr. Uli.
And just to cue it up, I thought it would be helpful to know where they are today. And Uli has establishment here in the community. And as we'll learn, Al is here seeking political asylum. And we'll hear the story about how he got here and how that's all about. So, guys, we can sit in the chair. You can take the mic off there if you want to hold the mic. But to start a little bit, Uli, tell us a little bit about your story. I mean, my understanding is you were born in Venezuela, and somehow you ended up in East LA, and then all of a sudden you ended up in Franklin. So that seems like a weird travel. So tell us a little bit about your story.
Okay. I was my mom and dad. My dad was Cuban. My mom was Venezuelan. My dad was a circus performer, and they met he was in a trapeze, and he saw my mom and fell in love with her. And
you've been swinging the whole life, huh?
I'm going to marry you, which was pretty romantic. They got an incredible story. But my mom was 15 when she got married, and 16 when she had me. And from Venezuela, we ended up living in Cuba. And at the age of 6, we had to flee Cuba because of the communism and Castro and stuff. And we had to just leave everything there. My dad, fortunately, was able to go to Canada first as a performer. My dad was, again, a performer. And so we went into Canada, and from Canada we went down to the World's Fair in 1962 in Seattle. That's when they opened the space, the needle thing. It was pretty cool. But I always grew up with the understanding that we fled Cuba, and which made me and it made us all immigrants. And I'll tell you, I grew up thanking God for being able to be in the United States every day. Every day we were grateful for being able to be in the U.S. We'll fast forward some. My dad ended up performing in Las Vegas for quite a while. And at the age of, I was 11, he was 33, he had a car accident. We ended up moving to LA. My mom hated the desert, Las Vegas, and so I grew up in Los Angeles. Ended up getting in a car accident when he was 33, and all of a sudden I found myself with the possibility of not having a dad. They gave him about 5 years to live, being a paraplegic, and ended up living 47 years, which is crazy. My mom took care of him like a baby, and so the doctors used to say, oh my gosh, that somebody to care about you and have that purpose to live. Anyway, fast forward some. I was 11, and at that point my dad ended up in the hospital for about 3 years. In those days, being a paraplegic, quadriplegic, or anything like that, it was a long process of any kind of recovery, which found myself in the streets of LA, and that became my family. Became a gang member, got hooked up with the LA gangs, which were Mexicans basically, and so I found community there, which was kind of crazy. Everybody has a longing for community and being part of something. So as a gang member, I excelled into vice president of my hood, and but I was still really young. And at 14, I started realizing that, first of all, I wasn't Mexican to be in a Mexican gang, but it got dangerous. People were getting hurt. I lost 3 friends to drive-bys, and they just beat them to the pulp to death. And I said, this is getting serious. I'm not even Mexican, so I need out. Well, it turns out that you just can't leave a gang. So I gravitated towards gymnastics in junior high, and I excelled really quickly because my dad was an acrobat, and I grew up doing acrobatics, and everything came to me easily. So at the age of 15, the Los Angeles School District really they didn't really care about me. We were I was just a guy there, and during the gymnastics thing, I was excelling so rapidly that they had some scouts from UCLA came down, and they say, "Hey, have you ever considered a scholarship?" And I said, "What's that?" I wasn't again. I didn't know much, and I went. They suggested I go talk to a counselor, and I did. And counselor, I told him, "Hey, scholarship, UCLA," and he kind of smirked at me, and he nodded his head. And he goes, "I don't think so. I found out that I had a second going into a 3rd grade education in the 10th grade, and I'm going, wow, I never knew that. Nobody told me that." And I said, how do I excel that? And he goes, "No, it's almost impossible, but I'll let you know what to do." And I said, well, he goes, and then he said something that struck fear in my heart and in my mind, that the only thing I was going to be was a laborer. I didn't even know what that word meant. And then he explained that it's like laying bricks or painting or landscaping and stuff. And I'm going, I know that my dad didn't raise me to be any of that. I needed something more. And so I really tried to excel in my education and realized that nobody really cared, and I couldn't go anywhere with it. So I'm going to shorten the story a little. I ended up leaving school after my 3rd friend got killed. They put him underneath a car. I don't know if the Mexican, you've seen those cars that go, they put him under one of those and crushed him. And so I said, it scared the crap out of me, basically. I need to leave. So so other events happened where I was able to find a guy who wanted to put an act together, and he lived in Dallas. So I left my home with my dad's blessing and my mom's blessing to become a performer. And I left my house to join the circus, basically, which was kind of crazy. So at 17, my 17th birthday, 2 days after, I was in Lima, Peru, and started my career as a performer, acro balancing act with another guy, and I started making money and everything. So that was amazing.
Did you at that time? Did you really have any relationship with your faith? I mean, obviously, you probably grew up Catholic or something.
Yeah, I grew up Catholic, which was really interesting because I was a good Catholic. In California, in Los Angeles, I'd go to church 2-3 times a week, even by myself, and just stay in the pew and pray and talk to God. And I was looking for a religious or a church community in Dallas and realized that Catholicism was different there. And then I ended up going to Peru and realized that Catholicism was totally different there. Then my profession took me to many places around the world. After that, I went to Brazil, and everywhere I went, I'd go to church and realize how different everything was. I ended up in Italy. I lived in Italy for a year, and Catholicism there was just like, wow, this is kind of really different. So I went on a search for who God was and what I believed in and why, and that was an interesting journey. And which
No, you hadn't met your wife yet, right?
My wife? No, that wasn't. Okay. So for a circus, I was a circus performer. And a lot of people that know me and stuff, a lot of friends say, "Oh, he was a circus performer." For a very short period. Out of my 20 years, I had a 20-year career, and the last 14 years of that was a Las Vegas performer, which is every performer's dream is to work Vegas, not just work Vegas, but stay in Vegas and become a household word there. I had a beautiful life there. A lot of networking. Everywhere I went, I was pretty much a celebrity. Recognized everywhere. My name was on the billboards and everything. So, and at that point, I started really searching for my faith, realizing that, oh gosh, God, you've put me here, and I just saw that movie, Jesus Revolution. That was me. Allergies. Just that's funny.
So as you were doing the searching there, you met your wife, but then the whole big question we're hearing is, how did you ever end up in Franklin?
Well, okay, so I got married, met my lovely wife, ex-wife now, but still in love with her, but she didn't want to be married anymore, but we both hated Las Vegas because it was a desert, and always dreamed about living somewhere like this. And as we were struggling through our marriage, I said, let's move to Franklin. Her sister lives here, so we came and visit and fell in love with Franklin. I approached coming over here like I do mission work. I've done short-term missions for quite a while. That's another story, but God opened all the doors here. It was incredible, and the fact that everybody was so friendly here.
So when did this cycle, because we are going to pull the pieces together, how
Right.
God brought the two of you together, when did you come and first meet,
Okay, so during that time, like I said, I do short mission work. After the divorce, I kind of got really upset at God and didn't want any part of him. I went into this reckless thing with I've been so conservative all my life. Forget it. For what? God, you don't love me anymore.
That was a turning point, really a major turning point in your life.
Yeah, it was a major turning point. So I stopped doing mission work, and I went through this period of just kind of like something was missing again. It was a total thing, and finally came to grips that I needed to forgive, and this unforgiveness thing was horrible. And I finally forgave. I went through some processes through friends and stuff like that. That once I forgave, I came back to life. And coming back to life, I realized that missions was a big part of my life. And my pastor, I remember telling him that, and he goes, "Hey, we're going to Nicaragua. You want to go?" And I said, "Yeah, I can interpret and I can go." So he goes, "Give me your credit card." And like a half hour later, I had a
Now,
flight.
what year was that?
2009.
2009.
No, it was 2000. Let's see, 2000. My mom had just died. Yeah, my dad had just died. Yeah, it was 2009.
2009, you went to Nicaragua.
So I went to Nicaragua, and it was like coming home. It was really weird. I felt I belonged there. And within 3 months, I went down to Nicaragua 3 times. So, and one of those, the fourth time I went down, I was told to open up I was led to open up a beauty school in Nicaragua to help these girls. When I found out that these girls would prostitute themselves for $2, and I'm talking girls like 12, 13, 14 years old, I realized that they would do that for $2. And I said, how much do people pay for haircuts? They go about $1.50, $2, $2.50. I'm going, so if I teach them how to do hair and be business ladies, they don't have to do that anymore. He goes, yeah. So I started really praying about this, and God says, I want you to do this. I said, I can't do that. And he says, trust me. And I can almost hear his voice saying, I can. And I said, okay. So I started doing that. And just like really short after that, like a month after that, I meet Eddie from NGO there, a nonprofit out of Virginia.
Orphan Network.
Orphan Network. And I was telling him what I was thinking about doing, and he goes, oh my gosh, that is so needed here. And he goes, and I've got the perfect guy for you. His name is Alvaro, and I'm gonna hook you guys together.
Okay,
And,
let's segue now and bring Al up to this point in time as to a little bit of your story, Al. And
well, let me, because I find out that, first of all, he's just this kid. He's 24, 25 years old, and I find out he was an orphan. He was abandoned and an orphan, and the networking that he had, and he knew everybody, and he knew exactly what I needed, and we just kind of clicked, and boom, here he was, helping me like crazy. I couldn't have done it without him. It was just crazy.
go ahead, good.
Okay.
And he's going to try to do the abbreviated version. I mean, I'll be very candid with it. There's already been someone that he's met with that really wants to take his story and put it into a film or a documentary. But he's going to give us the highlights a little bit. Go ahead.
Okay. Alvaro Rivas, born in Nicaragua, abandoned when I was 3 months old. My mom, I was rejecting for my father. He rejected me when I was 8 years old. I live in the street, sleep in the park. I heard about Jesus, about God. I hate God. I don't believe in Jesus. Does not make sense for me to believe in someone say, love you, I love you, which I never see. I grew up in an orphanage. When I was 8 years old, I went there. And at the orphanage, it's a Christian orphanage. Always they're talking about Jesus, about God. Always praying for meals. Wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, Bible study, worship. And I never believed that. I said no. But one day, one of my caretaker, he was in front of my face and say, I love you. And he hugged me. That was the first time when I heard somebody say, I love you. In that moment, that was God in my life. I make a prayer when I was 13 years old, and I say, God, I don't need you. I hate you. I don't like you. I don't know who are you. But if I meet my mother, her name is Fanny, not funny, Fanny. I will believe you. So 13 years old, I left the orphanage. And I back with my aunt, my sister mom. She raised me when I was a child, but she never treated me in a good way. Always she treated me really bad. And I back with her and I say, I'm leaving. And she say, where are you going? I'm gonna find my mom. And she say, you know where she is? And I say, no. So I have a letter from your mom. Maybe this help you. So I took the letter and photo. She's in Mexico, married with a man. So I took a bus from Nicaragua to Mexico, but I stuck in Guatemala with $4 in my pocket. I asking people, say, one of the men say, I'm going this address, can you please help me? And they say, you are far away from Mexico. You are in Guatemala. And he said, come to my house. I'm going to help you. I was there for 1 year. And then this guy and me working, I saved some money to keep going with my journal because I have a goal. I crossed the border from Guatemala to Mexico. I lost my passport, and I'm illegal in Mexico. I was sitting in the small park, small bag, but I never lose the envelope address. And then a lady came in and say, where are you from? And I shared my story. Come, I will help you. I never thought that God is take care of me in that moment. I was there for 6 months. I have to speak the accent, Mexican accent, because my accent was really Central America. And okay, so finally I called operator outside, said, I need your help. I have to find this address in a phone, home phone. And she said, I can't do that because that's illegal, but I will help you because I believe in what you're saying to me. So the phone started ringing, and a lady answered the phone, say, bueno, that means hello. And my heart started boom, boom. And I don't want to say, that's me, Alvaro. I say, I'm a friend of your son, and I have a package for you. And I want to give it to you from him. And she started crying and say, where's my son? Where's my son? It's okay. He's okay. He's good. So I told her the time and the date arrived to her place. 15 years later, I found her in Mexico, north of Mexico, Ciudad Obregón, Sonora. I went on the bus, huge, big bus, and I opened the envelope. I took a photo, her and her husband. And she was in front on the bus. And I look her, and I walk inside the bus, in the small bathroom. I look in the mirror, my face, and I start crying. And I say, "You are real, Jesus." And I start crying, and I can't stop crying because Jesus. I watched my face walking out of the bus. Funny, she was looking for this guy, waiting for the package. She didn't know. She left me when I was 3 months. She never recognized me. And I told her shoulder, and I say, "It's me." And she say, "Who? Who are you?" "Your son." And because I born with this, how do you say?
Defect.
Defect. Thank you. She looked in my ear, and she touched me, and she hugged me right away. And she said this, "Forgive me." I have a lot of things inside of me: hate, unlove, unforgiven. A lot. I carry a lot in my back. And I say inside of me, "I hate you. I want to destroy you because I live in the street, because I grew up in the orphanage, because your family destroyed me." She never expected me there. And then the man, her husband, show up and say, "Who is this guy?" "He's my son." And he jumped like, "What?" And his name is Jesus, Jesus.
Imagine that.
It's no coincidence. Honestly. God is good.
Take us up to this trip to how you got to LA and how that you went through like Yuli had his aha, deep moment in terms of his relationship with his wife when he came here, but then you had a situation like that when you ended up in LA, right?
Yeah, I started my relationship with Fanny, and then I started studying in Mexico, working in Mexico. I moved to Tijuana, so I working in Tijuana, and she decided to move with me in Tijuana because she said, "I don't want to lose you again." And I say, "We are okay." I have friends in San Diego, California, so he always invited me to come to San Diego, come live with us in San Diego. So I started a new life, moving from Tijuana to San Diego and working in San Diego. I used to work for a company, Little Debbie. I don't know if you heard about Little Debbie, the cookies. So I have a really good life in San Diego, but I feel empty, so empty. I have everything. And I went to spoke with my pastor because every Sunday I visit church, only Sundays. And I say, "Pastor, I need to talk to you," and say, "Yes." And he asked me this, "Where you come from? Where you came from?" Say, "Okay." So I share my story and say, can I pray for you? Say, okay. And he say, gotta have a plan in your life. And I say, please tell me what is the plan that God have in my life. And he say, well, you will know. I want to start. I want to invite you to Young Life. Young Life is a huge organization in the world. So I went to Young Life camp, and I met a boy, and he started like mad, angry, and he said, I hate my parents. And I say, okay, that's me. So I shared my testimony with him, and 2 weeks later, he back to me, hugged me, and say, thank you. I already forgive my parents. I went with my parents, forgive them. And I started crying. I said, God, I want to serve you. I want to do this for you. And I met Christine Gar. Christine Gar is the director of Young Life in San Diego. And she and I, we spoke about back to Nicaragua and serve in Nicaragua in 2002. So I did, and she said, Alvaro, you have to live your nice life in America, and you have to back to Nicaragua with your backpack. That's it, and God will provide you. I believe that. I have faith in that. I back to Nicaragua and working with Young Life, working with a lot of kids, drug, alcohol, gangs. God is good.
And interesting how he prepared you is because you're living in the States, you had the rare gift of being very fluent in English. As well as Spanish, so that put you in a very unique position.
I try to speak English. I'm not really good in English. Sorry, it's my bad if I'm not speaking really good. But yes, finally 2002 back to Nicaragua. But I have to do one more thing: forgive my father when he rejected me when I was 8 years old. So I back with his house, and he passed away, cancer. So I wrote a letter, and I said whatever I want to share with him. And I went to cemetery, his grave. His name is Joaquin Rivas, and I wrote the letter loud, crying, because I have a lot of things to say to my father. But I say, I forgive you, and you forgive me, Papa. One day I will get married. If I have a son, can you say that, please?
Yeah. What?
About my son when he's from my name.
So he ended up having a son, and
Yeah, and I say I will call him Joaquin.
which was his dad's name.
In 2009, I married. 2011, my fourth child, and his name is Joaquin. 2014, I divorced. I understand about divorce. It's not easy. But God is good. Healing a lot. Forgiving and love. So I have a son. My son, he's 12 years old now. His name is Joaquin. I have a family. I have a daughter. Her name is Zoe, 1 year old. I want to say to you guys that I never expect to come here and live here. I working for my country in Nicaragua. 22 years working with nonprofit organizations, a lot of nonprofit organizations from America. I used to work with Embassy of United States, with the Marines, Toys for Tots, and the ambassador. I never thinking that have to leave my country because right now, in the situation Nicaragua is, it's not a good place for me. They put again in my head and say, why you visited the embassy? What are you doing working with American people? And I said, they are helping my country, your country, people in need. They say, we don't want you keep working with the embassy or American people.
To give it a little backdrop, in 2019, the government became pseudo-socialist in Nicaragua and wanted to control everything. So they literally started persecution beyond what you could do. When he came up, he was walking down the street with his family, and a man came up, put a gun to his head, and said, "If you continue doing this, you're dead." And that happened in August, this past August of 2022. So if we have a few minutes left, just share really briefly the story of how you got out of Nicaragua, how you got here. Since this story is ongoing, there's a lot of details, but I think I'd like you just to share a little bit of what it took for you, the commitment that it took for you to leave your family behind and come here seeking political asylum. So you got the gun to your head, and then within a few days you were backpack and you were heading out of Nicaragua. Go ahead.
Yeah, so as Mr. Ron, he said, they put a gun and we walk in with my wife and my child, and we back home and cry and say, you have to leave. And I say, I have to leave the country. If I'm not leaving the country, they're gonna disappear me or kill me. So I call Ulises and say, I have to leave the country. So I never crossed the border, show my passport, stamp my passport, because if they saw me crossing the border from Honduras, any border, they're gonna get me. So I went underground and crossed on Nicaragua, Honduras. I used to work for human traffic, and I was part of the human traffic in the container with 140, 150 people on the container.
20-footers, the smaller ones.
I mean, think about that. Body to body, 140 people in a small container. How many days were you in there?
No windows.
Yeah.
No windows?
No windows, a couple days, and
People were dying left and right? Couldn't they just, because of the conditions?
And the only thing that I was thinking in that moment was my kids. And I say, I'm gonna die. This is my last day. Again, I beg him and I ask God, please help me. I don't wanna die here without my family. Finally, we were out of the container. It was really hard for me to understand about human traffic in those countries. So I'm here in this country. The last thing that I have from my son is this letter. So this letter for me means a lot. It gives me a lot of strength in my life. I'm sorry, guys, but I have feeling. But I want to say this: God is good, and thanks, Ulises. I'm alive.
Yeah.
I'm here. Thank you.
And to give you an update of where we are and where your prayers could be really, really felt. I mean, in many ways, a fulfillment for Yuli to have a son. You know, we've talked to our Father in heaven and so forth, but now Yuli is Father here in the flesh, and how God positioned him in a relationship to be here available. How Al's commitment to what he believed in and what he felt God called to go through what he's doing. And his family's still, you know, back in Nicaragua. And he's here now awaiting a judgment to be granted political asylum. It's not a guaranteed. They just shared with us this morning that they did have scheduled appointment. They were able to get a good attorney to help him, so he's going to get fingerprinted. So he should be able to get a Social Security card and a driver's license so he could actually earn a living here. And that could be the precursor to allowing his family to come here. But the wisdom that Al has, understanding that many people, you know, we're all used to rushing into things. He knows that if he doesn't provide, he get his act together and provide a good foundation here to bring his family to this country would not do them well, serve them well. He wants his kids to have a place and a home. So if you could, I'm going to like to just close with a word of prayer. If you would join me and pray over them. And let's make an appointment, you know, a year from now, and have them come back and hear the rest of the story and see how God's working through this young man and a gentleman who just stepped up sacrificially to invest in the life of somebody else who has, of course, implications far beyond just the two of us here. So if you could join me in a word of prayer. Father, it's so special this morning. I feel, and I'm sure many of my brothers here feel similarly, to hear this story of redemption, how you redeemed a man who had hate for his parents. You redeemed a man who had a broken life and the thing didn't make sense. And some of the dark moments that they each have felt over the years and just wondering, but somehow, Father, we look at you and say, thank you. You showed up. You showed up big time with the right relationships, the right connections, the right hearts that are willing to help. But Father, we just want to lift up Al and Yuli, but Al and also Al's family that's back in Nicaragua. We continue to seek, Father, their protection for them, and just to guide them and let you be the leader and know the timing and put the pieces together, because they have faith. They have faith is that you will fulfill that which you promised in their life. And we just thank you that they have clarity on their call, because their conviction is going to, Father, is going to be touching so many lives. We thank you for that you've provided that grace and that mercy. So as we adjourn this day, may we once again, each one of us, reflect maybe where we're positioned and where we can be to someone like Yuli has been to Al. We just thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Brothers, have a great week.